Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with The Box. The box of what? It's a surprise. No, I promised I was going to do this box because I think it really deserves the attention, even if it's not available in its entirety, or whether or not you can find it or not find it. It may still be around. I hope it is. It's the Sir Charles Groves box. Because, first of all, people tell me that there's a certain resemblance between the two of us. I don't know. Maybe you see it more than I do, but I'm not denying it, and I'm not unflattered by it if it's true. I think it's kind of interesting, actually. But Charles Groves was an absolutely marvelous conductor who never had a major orchestra and whose interest in all kinds of repertoire was legion. He did the first Mahler cycle in the UK, for example, with an English orchestra and everything. And he just, I think, was one of those musician, a guy who everything he touched was really well done, and had just this, like Charles Mackerras, like Silvestri, like Sándor Végh, like there were just some musicians who oozed music through their pores, and whose love of music was so genuine and so powerful that virtually everything they did came out sounding marvelous. And Groves was one of those. And he did it mostly with the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic. That was his basic orchestra. And they were never, a major orchestra, but boy, oh boy, they sounded good when he conducted them. And he got some stunning recordings from EMI at the time, too. So let's go through this. There are 24 discs, and it's just marvelous. It's all English music, all the stuff in here. It's all British music, and really good British music. And, Groves was such a fine conductor that we sometimes wish that he'd been around to do, for example, that Mahler cycle and lots of other music that interested him. He was also a fabulous Sibelius conductor. But the reality of the situation is that had he been doing that, he wouldn't have been doing this. And so much of this is interesting and unusual repertoire that really deserves greater attention, that we should be very happy that he was around to do this. So let's just go through it and see what's in it, with the understanding that it's just about all marvelous and well worth hearing. So here we have a little bookie. Let me see if the booklet has a track listing. No, why would it have a track listing? That's a silly idea. Who wants to see the tracks? All right, we're going to go through it. We're going to go through it like this, a clump at a time. You do get original jackets, by the way. And we'll just do it in its native clumps, right? So clump number 1, Elgar, the Severn Suite, the Nursery Suite, Grania and Diarmid, the Funeral March, and the Light of Life, the Meditation, and the Woodland Interlude from Caractacus, and the Crown of India Suite, which contains Elgar's greatest ever work, the March of the Mughal Emperors. And this is one of its greatest ever performances. Let me tell you, no one does the March of the Mughal Emperors with the same Mughalicity as Charles Groves, and it will really convince you that it's the greatest thing Elgar ever wrote. It's amazing. So this is a terrific disc of unusual, smaller sized Elgar, but not lesser quality by any stretch of the imagination. Then we get the Black Knight. Now, I may be alone in the universe, but I like early Elgar. Before the Enigma variations popped up and Elgar became a household word, or the Serenade for Strings, he wrote what everyone else was writing, choral music for the Huddersfield Choral Society or the Three Choirs Festival and all that. And he wrote these choral things. And it's standard practice to dump on them as being, hopeless Victorian relics. But the fact of the matter is, Elgar was a really fine composer before the Enigma variations. And he was something like, 50 or something, or 40, something when he wrote the Enigma variations. He hadn't been sitting on his hands. He did these other things. And some of them are marvelous. Not all, but some. The Black Knight is incredible fun. He called it a choral symphony, actually, because it's in 4 scenes. And it's marvelous. It's 1, 2, 14, 20, 35, 36 minutes. And what's not to love? I mean, it ought to be performed at choral concerts where you're doing Rachmaninoff's The Bells or any of these other choral symphony type things. It would make a wonderful, wonderful pairing in a concert venue, which you'll never hear it, but geez, it's wonderful. Music's terrific. And then we've got the Spanish Serenade and something called The Snow and the Singing Bird and the Imperial March and the Triumphal March from Caractacus as opposed to the Woodland Interlude. And as I said, most of these are with the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic, but this is with the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic. See, I wasn't lying. So that's really cool. The Black Knight is fun. And then we have The Light of Life. Now, The Light of Life is less interesting. It's 64 minutes, first of all, and doesn't gain much. It's about, the New Testament story of the restoration of, sight from a blind guy. And I mean, you Christians know it better than I do. It just doesn't interest me. The music sounds to me rather saccharine and kind of tepid. And of course, because this is the story, it doesn't have any real drama or any sort of, kind of like tension, shall we say. So this is not one of the more interesting of Elgar's earlier choral effusions. However, Caractacus, which is right here, and this is, let's see, cantata, scenes 1 through 4. And where's the rest of it? The rest of it should be here too, right? Yes, the rest of it is here, and it's attached to the Enigma variations. There we go. Caractacus is good. Caractacus is really good. First of all, because it's a secular subject. So he can be, he can be tawdry and vulgar and sexy. Well, he's British. They're never really sexy, but, what approaches sexy. And, you can do all kinds of things with the story. And it's a fun story. He's a Roman general and stuff happens. And it's terrific. It's absolutely terrific. The music is beautiful. Now, it was recorded. Most of these were subsequently recorded by Chandos in digital sound and with Hickox, and so those are the performances that kind of have eclipsed these. But they're still they hold their own awfully well. They really do. They sound marvelous, and they were beautifully recorded. The Enigma Variations is first class. Absolutely first class. And I'm so happy that he had an opportunity to record something that someone else may have heard, so you can make the comparison and really understand just what a fine conductor he was. So that's great. And then we've got the Elgar Violin Concerto with Hugh Bean, which is absolutely first class, and Pomp and Circumstance Marches 1 and 4. Absolutely first class performance. Hugh Bean was a wonderful soloist, and the pacing is marvelous. I mean, this is a long concerto. It's 18 minutes for the first movement, 19 for the finale, 11 for the Andante. What a crazy concerto this is when you really think about it. But what a magnificent piece, one of the sort of apotheosis of the Romantic Violin Concerto, and it's a beautiful, beautiful performance. So that's lovely to have. Then we've got Delius. He did a lot of Delius, and really good Delius too. We've got A Song of Summer, Eventyr, that has the chorus screaming, "Hey!" in the middle of it. And Dance Rhapsody number 1, and Paris, the Song of a Great City. It absolutely beautiful first-class performances, and I don't need to go into them any further. And then we've got the North Country Sketches and Life's Dance, or Lebenstanz, not to be confused with Lebensraum. And we've got Sea Drift with John Noble, baritone. John Noble was famous also for being in Vaughan Williams' Pilgrim's Progress. He was one of those English oratorio baritones who stayed in England. But this is a gorgeous recording of Sea Drift. And Sinara. And what with John Shirley Quirk? First-rate Delius disc, another one. And then we've got, Songs of Sunset and an arabesque. And the Songs of Sunset have Janet Baker and John Shirley Quirk and those people. And then we've got A Mass of Life, which is here. This was, for 1 billion years, the only recording, here's the other piece of it, of The Mass of Life that you will ever find. And thank God it was so good and wonderfully well recorded. Really wonderfully well recorded, with Heather Harper, Helen Watts, Robert Tier, Benjamin Luxon, the London Philharmonic, Adrian Bolt's crew, which was kind of nice of them to give him those forces to do it with. So that was fun. And then we have the premiere recording of Delius's Coanga, or Coanga, the opera, the complete opera about the African prince. And of course, it's tragic. And of course, it has in the middle of it La Calinda, the dance that Delius stuffed into everything when he needed a dance. It began life in the Florida suite and became a separate work. And it appears here in a choral version. And what's not to love? It's do 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 do. Oh, it's just great. And after that, we have the Song of the High Hills, which is one of Delius's. What was that? I don't know. Anyway, it was like my mail, which is one of Delius's flat-out amazing masterpieces. An extraordinary piece, the Song of the High Hills, with wordless chorus, and it's just one of those primal nature poem type things. It's absolutely glorious. So Cahuenga, the Song of the High Hills, and my email, all together on 2 CDs. No, don't worry, the email is not on the CDs. Then we've got, wait, there's more. Oh my God, can you believe all the juicy stuff in here? I mean, every single note of this stuff is listenable. It's worth hearing. It all deserves more attention than it's ever gotten. And Groves did it so well, with such love and affection and idiomatic verve and incredible. Vaughan Williams, Hugh the Drover, the other sort of opera, more like a musical, sort of an opera thing. And it's just beautiful and fun and full of all that folksy Vaughan Williamsy stuff. And people know sort of Sir John in Love or maybe Riders to the Sea, but Hugh the Drover is terrific. It would be so popular to be done by a Gilbert and Sullivan type company, because it's a comedy and it's really just delicious. Oh yes, and this is one of my favorite records ever. It should be a Dave's fave. Holst, The Hymn of Jesus. This is incredible. It's still the best sounding recording of all of them, along with the Hickox on Chandos, which is really good. But this one has organ pedals. Oh, organ pedals when the chorus is going, all things join in the dance. They say dance in England. It's dance, but dance. And then it goes boom, boom, dun, dun, do, 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 do. Then the organ comes in, do, bwah, do, do. And you just go, phenomenal. And you also get the short festival Te Deum and the choral hymns from the Rig Veda, second group, and the Ode to Death. And let's see, 2 songs without words, a marching song from those, and some Vaughan Williams, Coastal Command, Dawn Patrol, film music. I mean, this is like packed really full. It wasn't originally what was on the disc. It was originally the Hymn to Jesus and the Short Festival Te Deum and the Ode to Death and maybe the Rig Veda hymns. Anyway, this is one of the great records of anything. I kid you not. Because, of course, the Hymn of Jesus is a freakish masterpiece. It really is. And the performance is stunning. And so's this. Havergal Brian, Symphonies 8 and 9. One of the first professional recordings of Havergal Brian's music. 2 of his very best symphonies. Single movement symphonies, magnificently recorded. Again, the sonics are just stunning in this performance. And the pacing and the playing and everything about it, you would think that they had been playing this sort of gnarly music for their whole lives. It's so idiomatic and effective and brilliant and marvelous and wonderful and terrific. And I just keep going through the same adjectives over and over, and I'm sorry for that. I really am, but it's really true. I mean, these were the discs. For those of you who are, not cranky and old like I am, or like so many of my viewers, I love you all, cranky old people, the Altacocker Assembly, as we would say in Yiddish. But, when we were collecting stuff back in the day, we would get, if you weren't in the UK, and I know a lot of you were, but, we had to get these as imports. And we were really excited because, first of all, EMI imports sounded 100 million times better than the American Angel pressings. And second of all, a lot of the stuff that was available there was never released here. And it was so exciting hearing this music. And often, as with Havergal Brian, there was just like 1 disc, 2 discs by a composer who we knew had a vast storehouse of music that they had composed that we would probably never have the opportunity to hear. And it was such a thrill to get recordings in such good sound that made such an overwhelmingly powerful case for the music. And that's, among collectors, Groves was a magical name. It really was, and still is. It still is, because like I said, these performances have not aged a day. They still sound just as great as they always have. And this was another one. So many. Frank Bridge, The Sea, and then Summer, which is an amazing tone poem, and Enter Spring, which is an even more amazing tone poem, and Cherry Ripe, and his Lament. Oh, this is great. Oh my goodness. Enter Spring is one of the great tone poems, as some of you have pointed out. Really a masterpiece. But The Sea is so much fun, especially if you know Debussy's. This is a 4-movement symphonic, The Sea, and it's glorious. It was in my list of symphony/symphonic poems. Is it or isn't it? Try and figure it out. So this was the disc. This was the performance that really turned us on to Frank Bridge. And quite frankly, it's still the best. It really is. It's still the best. There are other good ones, but that's still the best one. And then we've got Arthur Bliss, Morning Heroes, a symphony for orator, chorus, and orchestra, and his processional. Now, Arthur Bliss became like Master of the Queen's Music or something like that, or one of those official titles. And he wrote a lot of kind of ceremonial music for that purpose. And it's wonderful to have this piece because no one else is ever going to record it. And, this is it. This is your opportunity to hear the best possible version of it. I'm not saying you won't find others. I don't know if there was another one. Maybe there is. I don't know. I didn't care. This was it. I was happy. And speaking of Bliss, there was this, a color symphony. This is a wonderful work. This sounds a lot like Walton, actually. And in terms of its like harmonic stuff. And we get, let's see, the Things to Come, music from the film, which is absolutely marvelous. And then Britten. Britten, remember him, The Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra. That's on here too. Back in the days when there weren't 4 billion recordings of it. Again, glorious. Absolutely fabulous. Then we've got popular music of William Walton. And look at the plane. The plane Spitfire, the Prelude and Fugue, movie music. And we've got Scapino, the comedy overture, and then the best ever Crown Imperial March, and Orban Scepter, and the Johannesburg Festival Overture, and the Capriccio Burlesco, and the Funeral March from Hamlet, the Prelude to Richard III, and then the Richard III Shakespeare Suite. Listen, all of that, all on one wonderful disc. Well, 68 minutes and 56 seconds. And it's just terrific. I got to stop saying it's terrific. Okay, not terrific. Rule Britannia. Who cares? All right, it's a ceremonial music, and it's fun. It's fun. It's a disc of, you've got Hamlet and Ophelia, a poem for orchestra by William Walton, and then the Henry V Suite, which is just marvelous. That was the Henry V Suite was my theme music for my morning show when I was on JHU, back when I was running the classical music at Johns Hopkins University when I was in college. It was great. Oh, it was just so much fun. And we've got Kenneth Alford on the Quarterdeck March, Henry Walford Davies, the March Past of the Royal Air Force, and then the Fantasia on British Sea Songs, the Hornpipe, arranged by Henry Wood, and Eric Coates, the Dam Busters, and the Three Bears, and Cinderella Fantasy, and Thomas Arne, the British Grenadiers, and Rule Britannia. So that's the idea. And actually, the music in here is enormous fun. It really is. And I the title I can deal without, but that's okay. If you're British, you will love the title. And then we've got the best of Eric Coates. Lots of Eric Coates. Oh, fabulous light music. He was such a good composer. I've got to do some more talks on Eric Coates because his music is just wonderful. Really one of the great light music guys. He was incredible. By the Sleepy Lagoon, From Meadow to Mayfair, the Three Elizabeths, Suite. You only get one movement of it. And then the Dam Busters, the Wood Nymphs, Music Everywhere, the Saxo Rhapsody, Summer Days, London Every Day, and London Again, which has the Knightsbridge March. You know, you know what it goes like. So that's terrific. And then Sullivan, the Irish Symphony, and operetta overtures, Pinafore, Patience, Iolanthe, the Mikado, the Yeoman of the Guard, the Gondoliers. Great great. Can you believe, I mean, this is 24 discs, right? 24? That's what I said, 24 CDs. Every single one of them, even Rule Britannia, is worth having. Really, really worth having. It's one of the best boxes of its kind I've ever seen. And finally, last, but certainly not least, Malcolm Arnold! Yo! It starts actually with the Overture di Ballo by Sullivan, and then we've got Malcolm Arnold's English Dances, sets 1 and 2, and the Second Symphony. This is with the Bournemouth Symphony. This performance of the Second Symphony is a knockout. Absolutely a knockout. Wow. I mean, the finale, that it's great. And we've got Walton, a little bit more of Henry V, Touch Her Sweet Soft Lips and Part, and Agincourt Song, which I guess they were recorded again for some reason. I don't care. So, look, here's the pile, which I am going to reassemble. And it is absolutely one of the great boxes of anything by anybody. And in terms of interest of repertoire, it is, I don't think there's really been much of anything to compare with it. I truly don't. I mean, it's every disc will be a discovery practically, and a happy one. And there are not many collections about which you can say that. So if you can find this, grab it, savor it, take your time with it, enjoy it, love it. It will reward you for the rest of your life. Guaranteed. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.